My pro-life journey didn't start with Elijah. It started way back in 2003. I was down at the Detroit Auto Show with my friends. It was an annual trip we did. One of my friends used to write a auto review column. So we would go down for the media section of the auto show and have a very good, fun time. I had to be back on the Monday, I think at 11:30, to meet up with my wife for the ultrasound for our first child, Aiden. The weather was terrible. We're driving from Detroit. Might have been a bit tired from some fun the night before, and I thought I was going to miss it. It was terrible. We got into the parking lot of the hospital. I jumped out of the car. My friend took it and parked it somewhere else. I ran in. My wife was there, extremely unhappy because I just barely made it. But the moment was seeing the ultrasound. Looked at the ultrasound. I'd never contemplated, I'd never really thought about life, pro-life, anything. And I saw the ultrasound, and it was my first sort of eureka moment. I looked at that and said, I was just blown away. Just, wow. I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. We didn't want to know, but just the image, the movement, listening to the heartbeat, it was, I can, as I close my eyes now, I can see myself in that room and feel that moment all over again. When my wife became pregnant with Elijah, we did the standard tests we always did, and the first tests came back saying 75% chance of a genetic abnormality. So that was, something that we found upsetting. We went through a process of some verification. It was actually a very real roller coaster. My wife's family doctor said, "Oh, I looked at the ultrasound, there's nothing to worry about. They say trisomy 18. She said, "Don't even look it up on the internet. It'll just upset you because that's not what it is." So, we sort of did that, and we were talking to some friends. They said, "Well, why don't you go down and see a doctor in Toronto, a little more specialized, get some more information." So we went. The doctor said, "Well, we should do a much more thorough and detailed ultrasound." So we did. And as I'm thinking about it now, you contrast this ultrasound with the first one, and we both saw in the ultrasound the characteristics of a child with trisomy 18, the clenched fists, the rocker ball feet as they call them. So we knew with some certainty there was a problem there. The doctor said it's not conclusive, you should have an amnio done. So we did that next, and we got the results. It was 100% guaranteed trisomy 18. The challenge for both of us after that was the advice we would receive from various doctors in the process. We went for genetic counseling right after that first test. The first thing we were presented with was options on abortion. We weren't given any information on, how do you deal or how do you raise a child that may have a genetic abnormality. And it was the same thing the whole process along. It was always, this is a terminal condition. We don't really consider this to be a viable child. So if you want to abort, you can abort. When we'd meet with, the doctors as we get close to delivery, it was, don't have a C-section if the child's in distress, feel distress during delivery because you're just prolonging suffering. If he survives delivery and is, can't feed, don't put in a feeding tube because all you're doing is making this child suffer. Don't, go to any extraordinary ways or lengths to save this child's life. So there was no, in my view, there's no balance on what the alternatives were. We were so shell-shocked. We didn't really have the capability to do investigation ourselves. I mean, now I've seen so much written about trisomy 18 and children that live, longer lives, longer and longer all the time. But none of this was sort of presented to us. And we didn't really seem to be able to figure it out ourselves either, because it was such an emotionally, you're sort of punch in the stomach when you see that most of them don't survive pregnancy, most of them don't survive childbirth. The ones that survive childbirth don't, survive more than a few hours or a few weeks. When you're going through all of that, it really sets you back. But, we both wanted Elijah to have life. Whatever life it was going to be, we thought he deserved a chance at that life. So we wanted to continue the pregnancy and, see what would happen. My wife's water broke when we were at home, so we knew things were coming. We hadn't told our kids about the problems because we didn't think they'd understand, and we didn't really want to upset them. So, but we had told some friends, so we left to go to the hospital, had a friend come and watch the kids. They're going to bring the kids down later. We arrived at the hospital. We were both upset. We both weren't ready. I think it was 32 weeks, 31 weeks, somewhere around there. So, it was early, so we were surprised and upset that it was early. Received great care at the hospital. They were wonderful. My wife's family were all there. They traveled down as well. The labor went on a reasonable amount of time, and when our kids arrived, they came, they saw my wife, they saw myself. They went, the staff at the hospital were wonderful. They arranged for a room for them to go and sleep because it was, I think they went to lie down at around 11 p.m., somewhere around there. Elijah was stillborn, and I think we sort of thought that was what was going to happen. They didn't use any heroic measures because we didn't think it was what we were supposed to do. I think we both regret that now. I know I do. I think Leanna does as well. I then we held him, both of us. I went and woke up my kids and had to tell them that there was a problem. It was very hard. But such a beautiful moment afterwards. We all held them. Both our kids. It was hard letting go. I think he was born at about 2:33 in the morning, somewhere around there. I think we let him go the next day around 9 or 10. Had some friends who came and took pictures. We weren't prepared. So thankful they did. We have pictures now, which is great. I think as painful as it was, I think if we had had an abortion, it would have been far worse. It's painful now for me to think back to it because you think about the loss, but The time we had together was incredibly moving, powerful, wonderful, and terrible. I don't know how else to describe it. But Elijah deserved a chance at life. I'm just so firmly convinced of that. So I'm glad for what we did. So 2 days from now is his 3rd birthday. We made the conscious decision not to pretend it didn't happen. Our kids talk about Elijah. My daughter keeps a picture of Elijah in her room. She used to have it under her pillow, which I thought was very sweet. So we always do something for Elijah. We, get a small cake. My daughter loves to send a balloon up in the air with a message. Look, it's a tough story. We don't talk about it a lot, but I think it's important for people that may go through it. It's really the reason why I talk about it. I'm a very private person, but I talk about this because I think someone might see it, be thinking, should I have this child? Should I not? And I think there are enormous benefits to giving someone a chance at life, even if it's for 10 minutes. It's everyone deserves a chance at life. That's my view. I believe life is sacred. My children have a special bond with Elijah, even though he's not with us. And I think it's an important bond. I do. It was a life learning decision for them. It was a life experience for them. It taught them all kinds of things. It taught them about strength and courage to go forward with difficult things that their parents went through. They learned about loss, and that's painful for young children, for sure. It is part of life. I think you're a stronger person when you learn to deal with loss. I think it's made both my children more empathetic and kind. I do. So I wouldn't want to have deprived them of that experience either. Elijah's birth was an incredibly powerful experience for our entire family. Our children were there. They were able to hold him. We were able to hold him. Our families came. They were able to hold Elijah as well. It was incredibly painful holding our son who was stillborn. I remember thinking that my heart had actually physically broken at one point. But the moments we had, they were only a few hours, were so powerful for us as a family. I can't imagine how terrible it would have been if we didn't at least have those 7 or 8 hours. I think life is sacred. I think everyone deserves a chance at life. I don't know how else to summarize that. Children deserve to have a chance at life. We should let life win.